So earlier on, you said you were in Iraq for 18 months?
It was, the whole deployment was 18 months. I think boots on ground was a little over a year, a week longer than a year.
Did you know you were going to be there for an entire year, or was that sort of a surprise?
No, I think they had all kinds of conflicting stories because they were getting information that, yeah, we're going to get down there, we'll be back in 4 months, and then it was 6 months, and then it was 8 months, and then pretty soon 12 months, boots on ground, you have to be boots on ground. And I think it's because it was an evolving situation. I had no idea what role we would play, how valuable we would be to the war effort or the campaign. So it was a constantly changing thing. And even when we found out, every time you found something out, you just, and I was a squad leader, so I always had to tell my guys, you just got to remain flexible. If you're not flexible, it's going to drive you crazy. And that's the nature of military service too. Just remain flexible at all times. So at the time, I definitely did not know that we were going to be there that long. I just didn't think it was going to be a possibility. But I think it was by the time we got there in May, and I think by the end of the summer, we knew we were there for the rest of the year. Our deployment.
Was that really upsetting, or did everyone?
At that point, I was just numb. I always thought, why would they send us all over here at great cost? Because we even took trucks from California. We had to get them. Civilians had to pick them up, drive them all the way to Texas, put them on a boat. The boat had to come off. Took a boat a month to get across to Kuwait. Unload all our vehicles, take them back. And I thought the cost is staggering. And then, so I kept telling that to my guys too. I said, they didn't send us over here just to have us have a little vacation for 4 months in a different country. They're going to use us for a long time. So get used to it. So I think I was at that point just kind of saw the writing on the wall.
So what did you do as squad leader?
I was in charge of, let's see, it was like 12 guys and girls. We had women in the unit too. Truck drivers could have women. And when we were in country over here in California, we were training as a military squad would train. If we got missions given to us, they would go through me, and I would delegate the drivers with the trucks to take on particular missions. The unfortunate thing is when you go over there, that all goes out the window. And basically you get a mission, and the truck master, when it controls which trucks go in what direction, he might say, okay, this particular mission requires, yeah, we got it. Yeah, there you go. Motion detector. This particular mission requires, 35 trucks, which means, a lot more drivers. So you would take a little bit from this, and whoever was back in Kuwait would get that mission. So I quickly realized that by the time we had developed this really tight unit of camaraderie, and we were ready to go and attack any mission, we never really saw each other anymore. We were just parceled out, many different. We were second platoon's second squad, and we would be attached to all these different platoons the whole time we were there. So the whole training process up to it, hopefully it's changed by now, but up to it was where we were really tight when we went in, and then we just, my job as a squad leader, really, I went to meetings, I briefed my guys every once in a while when I saw them. But it was really before we went and after we got back, just kind of doing more of the paperwork and so forth.
And did that still feel organized when you got there, or did it feel kind of chaotic? And
definitely chaotic at first. And then we got into this groove where, okay, you are basically a driver. You're going to be assigned to a mission when that mission goes out. And a lot of times, most of the guys wanted to go on missions. They would just volunteer because it makes time go by faster. You're not just sitting in a base down in Kuwait. Some never wanted to go north. They never wanted to go to Iraq. Mechanics and others that were in a support role, they would always volunteer for duty that was south, and they had their own purpose. But they would avoid that mission. So.
So when you came home, was it difficult to sort of reintegrate into your life, or easy, or and what were some of the challenges?
It was lucky for me because my civilian job, a lot of guys had to go straight back to their civilian job pretty quickly thereafter. My civilian job's teaching, so when I got back in May, I had, when you're in the military, you earn so many days of leave per month. When I was over there, I never could take leave. There was a lot of soldiers that were sent home. They got 2 weeks of leave, and because of my rank and my position as a squad leader, they were starting at private E1 first, give all those guys a chance to go home first. And so my opportunity to go home, it just never came up. So I had all my leave was banked up for the end. So then after I got back, I think I touched base here in May at Holmes, and then I was able to, as soon as school was out, we went to Hawaii for a couple weeks as a family, and that was cool. And stayed at the military hotel in Waikiki. And then I still had a couple months before I really had to kind of get back into it. So my transition back was a lot smoother than some guys. And also I had a family that was intact when I got back. A lot of soldiers had families that kind of disintegrated because of the pressures of the deployment and so forth. High divorce rate with our unit. Jobs lost, even though jobs are protected by if you get deployed, your job is protected by federal law. They would get their job back, but they would show up late one day and they'd get fired.
Yeah.
So, which is unfortunate because of loopholes. So, my transition was pretty smooth.
That's good.
So how did you return home? Like on a plane?
Yeah, we came back on a. We stopped in Dover, Delaware, or Dover. I think it was in Ireland somewhere. Which is because we left Kuwait, flew to like Romania or something. We had a refuel, which was bizarre. They wouldn't let us off the plane, but we're like, oh my God, it's green, we're looking outside the plane. And then we flew to Ireland somewhere, and at that particular point we had a layover for like an hour or something, or 2 hours. And our plane, they had to park our plane in a fenced-in area, so this plane came in, the big fences came, and they closed us in, like they were trying to protect us from I don't know what. And then we got off the plane, and this very smart guy, he built this plywood bar inside the terminal, and he just had like 12 or 15 different kegs of really, really good beer. So we were allowed to have a beer at that point. So that was really kind of cool because we had a couple hours to burn and money in our pocket, and we hadn't had a beer in a year. So we all sat down and had a beer and had a couple of laughs. And then we had to land in the port of call when you come in the country is up in Maine, I think. And that was incredible because that's the first time you hit U.S. soil, and they know that. So all these people that you never knew, you don't know any of them. They line the hallway when you come off the plane, and they're just shaking your hand, patting you on the back. They have a whole bunch of a phone booth set up where they give you calling cards so you can call home. They set you up with a nice meal. They treat you like royalty. And there's these ports of call where people come in. They have these people show up every day, and they welcome the troops home from deployments. Volunteers that they were in the military, they have kids in the military, or they're just living in that community, and they just come and show up and welcome the troops, which was really cool.